Iconic LGBTQ Vogue editor André Leon Talley dies, leaving many questions. Fashion legend André Leon Talley has died. He was 73. Talley, a former Vogue creative director, passed away Tuesday at a hospital in White Plains, New York. Texas anesthesiologist Dr. Yvonne Cormier, a friend of Talley's for 45 years after they met at Brown University, told the Houston Chronicle that he passed away from complications from coronavirus. She added he had underlying health issues related to his weight. GQ, a Conde Nast publication, reported his cause of death as a heart attack, as did a spokesman for former Vanity Fair editor Graydon Carter. COVID has been known to cause lasting heart conditions in patients, and small blood clots can form in the heart, according to Johns Hopkins University. Talley is remembered as a driving force in Vogue's success, serving as the magazine's long-acclaimed creative director and American editor-at-large through the 1980s and 90s. His death comes just 3 years after his longtime friendship with Anna Wintour ended when she froze him out for being, quote, too old, too overweight, too uncool, end quote. Talley claimed in a memoir released in 2020 that he was left with a huge emotional and psychological scars from his friendship with the notoriously icy editor.
Who's a dinosaur herself. I just have to say, what a lack of vision for someone as famous as Anna Wintour to have that kind of perspective on an icon. André Leon Talley was absolutely one of the first, if not the first, Black queer men involved in the high fashion industry in some capacity. So I think it's a tragic thing that we've lost him. I loved to see pictures during his heyday wearing those really dramatic coats and all of the capes. I kind of want to wear those coats and capes now. Maybe I'll take over Mr. Talley, but I just think it's a real loss to our community because he really is an icon when it comes to fashion.
But do you feel like he was part of our community wholeheartedly? Like he would wear these beautiful, wonderful things, and he was, I mean, on Twitter, people are like, our patron saint of chic is gone. I mean,
Absolutely.
That was how he was looked at. But when he was asked about his own sexuality and him being gay, he would dance around the question every which way possible. If you go to Wikipedia right now and do some research on him, you will not find a partner or anything. And he did have a longtime partner. He was on Wendy Williams in 2018, 2019, I think, when he was talking about his memoir. And he said, I'm just fluid, baby. You know, and when she pushed, he agreed and said that he was bisexual. But that's the only thing that I have ever heard him say about his sexuality.
I also think he was a man of a certain age. No offense, Hal.
And black. We're close in age, by the way.
You and André Leon Talley, I know, yes. But he was a man of a certain age. You know, I think he was 73 when he passed. And I think that was something that he probably had to do for survival that he just stuck with in the end. I mean, even admitting to being bisexual or fluid is also very much a queer statement. Yeah. So I think we have to take that into consideration when we're talking about him. A man of a certain time, had to grow up during a certain era, again, as a Black queer person.
I'm curious, does it surprise any of you that in the news this morning, that probably a gigantic percentage of especially LGBT under the age of 30 had never heard his name before? Does that surprise you that as important as he was in fashion, that our community didn't know?
No, I mean, I think that the 30 and under generation are having their own fashion icons that have moments like, such as Little Nas X or things like that. And he was also more of a...
If he wasn't on TikTok or something like that, that the young people would see more, then maybe they wouldn't have followed.
And he was, and he was also a background player. I mean, let's face it, he wasn't the one. He wasn't even Anna Wintour. He was, the man behind the person. So it doesn't surprise me that 30 and under doesn't know it. And I'd just like to say one thing about how you part with someone. I always try and leave on good terms or a hug or something with everybody, whether I've just had a fight with them, whether they've cursed me out, because you don't know when the last time something will be your last time. I could get hit by a truck going over the bridge tonight. Anything could happen.
Kill you.
Faye Watt.
That's very well possible.
Very well may, yeah. So no, just be kind and make every parting as if it were the last one.
Yeah.
And he was a guest judge on America's Next Top Model. That's how I knew him. So growing up, I loved that show. That was kind of my escape into like fashion shows and photography, and I could like dream and sit there and go, that's gonna be me on a cover of a magazine. And he had this persona always of this kind of chic and grand, and you know, I wonder wholeheartedly, and no offense to his memory and his legacy, how much of that was truly him, or how much of that was just how he had to make himself be known in the social circles he was in, out of fear of just being, not just for being black, being maybe overweight, but just kind of, and not leading with his sexuality. I think there was a lot of mysterious parts of him, and it was all wrapped up in the excess fabric and the fashion and the grand personality. But I still thought he was fun to watch, and it was great to see him.
You know, two thoughts, two parting thoughts on him. First, when I did hear the news this morning, I did think of the devil wearing Prada. She never recanted what she said about him, and now she doesn't have the opportunity to, which is John's point, and I think very significant. The most significant quote associated with him for our community is he never liked being called gay. He very specifically said, I do not like being called gay. And okay, you can identify however you want, but saying a label but simultaneously rejecting your community, but not really rejecting your community, it always felt, I heard him a number of times, it felt like he was afraid of the identification, which is incredible. You're in Vogue, you're in fashion, you are exceptionally gay, and everyone loved what you did. So why he rejected it never made sense. And the one thing that I said, and I mentioned it multiple times, he comes out of a history of the AIDS epidemic, and he comes out of a history in the black community. And those two things created resentment and shame and other kinds of things, which I guess formulated his life. And that's sad to me, because he departs never getting to be who he authentically was, which was a genius. LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus